Hello and welcome to the J&J Political Show. I am joined, of course, with my co-host Jose Castillo, and we have a special guest with us tonight, John Arguello, who is a school board member in Osceola County. Tonight, on Tuesday night, we have a great show for you. We will be discussing the recently released NRCC target list, which includes Florida's District 9, which Jose recently ran for Congress there, and John is a school board member and part of that district. So we have a lot of great stuff to discuss, breaking down what this target list means. We'll do a deep dive into previous election results and tell you all our thoughts about the results and the election going forward in 2024. So really excited to get started. Hope you all are enjoying your Tuesday evening. So kick back with your favorite beverage and enjoy the show.
Hi, folks. How you doing, Jose? Thank you, Joseph. You're right. The NRCC did announce again every election cycle. The NRCC comes out with a list of districts that they're going to target. So basically, throughout the country, there are seats out there that are held by Democrats that the NRCC thinks that we can go in and possibly flip them. This is the list that they came out with this for this coming election cycle, and as you can see, Florida 9, which is the district that I ran for, is almost at the top of that list. You mentioned, Joseph, that it was the only district in Florida that it's on this list. And as you can imagine, last election cycle, John, and you might remember this, there were several seats in Florida that were up for challenge from the NRCC they were going to target. But we did flip them, right? We did flip them, and we did not flip Florida 9. Now, one of the things that having lists like this will do, and it's great, because if you live in Florida 9, you will think, okay, well, this is great. The Republican Party is finally going to look at our district and they're going to help us flip this. Well, that may be the case, or it may not. For example, with having Darren Soto on this list, what do you guys think that the Darren Soto's thought process is going into this next election? Do you think he's just gonna keep doing election, campaigning as normal, or would you think that this makes him say, okay, oh my God, I need to get my ducks in a row. I might have some real challengers, and I should probably go out fundraise. What do you guys think about it?
Well, for me, I don't think I think that he's going to become desperate. He's really changed over the past two election cycles, and here's how. He used to be while he was in the Senate, he was a centrist kind of guy, would work with Republicans, Democrats. He did all kinds of great moves that prevented people from being really motivated to get rid of him. And over the past two election cycles, what's happened is that he became a puppet of Nancy Pelosi, right? And he's been desperate, kind of like getting involved with the Democratic establishment of this county to pick up votes. Now he's speaking at all of our high school graduations for the first time and stuff like that. So he's desperate. He's going to go raise money. He's going to go to the fundraisers. He's going to make the very biggest effort that he can because he also knows he's vulnerable. And we have discussed prior, the NRCC, that may be one of the biggest reasons he's on this list is because we all understand that he is vulnerable. Well, so does he. So he's going to be motivated, and then we'll see how else that impacts the race. But absolutely, I think he's going to be, running with a sense of purpose this time, running with a little bit of desperation. God knows he doesn't want to leave his seat. He has built his entire career for this moment, and getting rid of him is going to be a task.
Yeah, and you said the fundraising, and if I was Congressman Soto, and I'm the sitting congressman, and I see that the opposition party to me has put me on their target list, I would go to my donors and I would say, listen,
Yeah.
I voted the way that you have expected me to vote, and they're targeting me. The seat is in danger. Help me out. Let's send in your donations, and I will keep doing the work that you send me here to do. And so I think this is almost benefiting Darren Soto. Having the NRCC putting him on this list, it's helping him because he's raising a lot of money. In the last election, he raised, I think he outspent the Republican candidate by over 2 times, right? So this is almost helping him secure that seat. On the other hand, from the Republican side, what does it do? It attracts a lot of candidates. You know, in the last election cycle, I think there was about 8 Republicans at one point who were vying for the seat. And what does it do? It basically splits the support. It splits the fundraising. Yeah. It splits the volunteers. And in the end, you know, the NRCC starts looking at the district again and says, well, there's not really like a definite front runner. And even if there's one, you know, they're not going to win. You know, they don't have the support. It's split. At this point, Darren Soto is blowing all of them out of the water. He's going to be the winner, and they forget about the district. So, in essence, having this district on the list is almost like hurting our district, right? And as you know, I ran for this seat, and I ran twice, and I lost both times in the primary. And you know, I am upset. I am upset because there are candidates who don't take their time to look at the district of, you know, what are the realistic chances of actually winning this seat. You can't just look at this list from the NRCC and say, my gosh, if I win the primary, the money's going to start pouring in. They're going to start helping me, and we're going to take over the seat. That is just not realistic expectations. And some of the things that we've seen, and if we go back to, I believe this was 2016, Marco Rubio was running here for Senate in Florida, right? He was running for re-election, and this is just the voting results of a county right in the middle of Florida. And by the way, for those of you who don't know where Florida 9 is, Florida 9 is in the theme park capital of the world. It's the southern part of Orlando. Part of Walt Disney World sits in Florida 9. And this results that we're looking on the screen is the results for Osceola County only. And as you can see, Marco Rubio, despite the fact that he lost that race in Osceola County, he lost the vote, he had 7,000 more votes than the Republican candidate for Congress. So you would figure that a lot of people go to the ballot and they're Republican, they want Republican values. They'll go in and they'll vote Republican down the ballot. But that is not the case. Not here in Osceola County, at least. That is just definitely not happening. We have another, the next cycle was 2018. And again, we had this time Rick Scott running for Senate, and he also lost that race. But then again, the Republican for Congress got 6,000 less votes. And, you know, at some point, you got to start putting together what's happening, right? And you might have noticed that the candidate for Congress for the Republican side on both elections was the same gentleman, Wayne Lipinski. Now, see, people might say, oh, maybe it's a weak candidate, whatnot. And I can tell you, man, I would have been so proud to have someone like Wayne Lipinski as my congressman because, you know, he's a patriot. He's a business owner. He clearly cares about his community. As a matter of fact, both of his daughters are in the armed services. I believe one of them is in the Navy. The other one's in the Air Force. Clearly a patriot that loves his country. So what is it? You know, I don't think it's the candidate. I think part of it has to do with the fact that the Republican candidate is running against Darren Soto. He is a Hispanic Democrat, and as you guys might know or might not know, Osceola County, and actually the district itself, Florida 9, which includes part of Orange and a little bit of Polk County, is over 50% Hispanic voters. And that's
almost 70%.
Yeah. I said it's over 50, and it's definitely a Hispanic majority. Now, when you know, keep going 2 years forward, and this election is the one that I first got involved in the primary. This was 2020. Donald Trump was running for re-election, and as you can see, Donald Trump had 7,000, almost 8,000 more votes in Osceola County than the Republican candidate for Congress. And again, we're only including Osceola County. When you look at the entire district, I think Trump had about 13,000, 14,000 more votes than the Republican candidate. So why is that happening? Why are they voting Republican for Senate, Republican for president? And, you know, going into the last election cycle, it was Republican for governor. For the first time ever in several years, you know, we've basically flipped this seat. The Republicans won Osceola County. Not only did we win in the governor's race, we won in the race for attorney general. We won in the race for U.S. Senate. So Marco Rubio won this time. He lost in 2016. He won this time. We won the seat for the Commissioner of Agriculture, and we won the seat for the state of Florida CFO. So there's 5 races that we won in this seat, county, district-wide, Florida district, congressional district-wide, and we won them in Osceola County as well. But we lost yet again in the race for Congress. As you can see, this was of all these races, this was the one with the lowest turnout, and that's because a lot of the Democrats failed to show up to the ballot because what did they have to vote for? There was no one, Charlie Crist, which is not bringing people into the ballot, into the voting.
Yeah, well, in fact, Darren Soto got more votes than Charlie Crist did.
Yep, you're right.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, Darren Soto is a competitive candidate, and you need, if you're going to get rid of Darren Soto, you need a good candidate. And good doesn't just mean being a patriot, right? A lot of all of these guys have been
Absolutely.
great people, but it's not about that. You have to have every advantage that you have available to you. You have to put it on the battlefield, and these guys just have not been able to put enough advantages on the battlefield to make it a really competitive race. This should have been it. One picture with DeSantis would have won the state Senate seat. So state Senate seat 25 is, for all intents and purposes, the same seat, right? It's the same general geographic area. And Peter Vivaldi in that race, he was like a stone's throw from winning that seat. So you can see here, I mean, he had more votes. So why is that? One picture, a handshake with DeSantis would have put Peter Vivaldi over the top in that race. And he did that with $19,000. So what does that tell you? Scotty Moore, unfortunately, as great of a guy as he is, and as great of a family as he has, he just underperformed in that race severely, and I'm afraid that he might see something similar this time if he runs again.
Yeah,
he is in fact running again.
Yeah, he is in fact running again. Go ahead, Joseph.
So no, I just wanted to touch on 2 points. So to John's point, if we look over the trajectory of the election results, one thing that we notice as well is Governor DeSantis, his popularity helped carry a lot of people in a lot of seats across the entire state. So if we had a viable candidate in Florida District 9 in last year, I think we win that race. I don't want to say handily, but pretty solid in that race. So Governor DeSantis' popularity drove out a lot of Republicans, and Charlie Crist, who was not liked at all by either side, really kept a lot of Democrats home. So it was really prime for the taking. So I think with 2024 coming up, that presidential ticket, we have to make sure that it's somebody that's going to drive out those voters to the ballot box to vote for our candidates across the board, down ballot. So, but another thing is, Jose, you're talking about the donations flooding into Florida 9 if you win the primary. But if we just look at last year, if you're not competitive to the point where you're basically winning every single poll, a lot of times what happens, we saw it with the NRSC and we saw it with the NRCC last year, is they will pull that money out and they'll give it to races that are more competitive. So if you don't have a candidate that's within 5-4 points consistently in these polls, they're not going to continuously spend the money because they're just looking at that as a waste of opportunity where they could spend that money in a more competitive race. So you have to have a candidate that's going to make that 3-point race where it's basically. So I've worked in politics for a long time. There's a saying where if it's a 3-point race, just getting out the vote in your grassroots efforts, if you have a better grassroots effort than your opponent, that wins the race. So if it's within 3 points, they're willing to spend that money. But if you're down 5, 6, 7 points, they're not going to bother with it. So you have to have a candidate that's able to get it within those 3 points.
Yeah, well, if you're outside 7 points, they won't even come near you, right? I mean, so here's the funny thing also, to your point, Joseph. If when we're looking at these numbers here, right? DeSantis is beloved, right? He won by 20 points. It was a grand slam of an election for him. But the MVP wasn't even him. It was Joe Biden. So Joe Biden drove, I mean, he kept D's home and he brought ours out like crazy. And I mean, and now we're going to have 2 more years of Joe Biden, which to run. I think that you're going to get there's going to be Republicans falling from the sky. Martians, UFOs are going to come and register their vehicles here and register to vote as a Republican. I mean, it's going to be, I think, a bloodbath, or, it could be, at least. It could be. The red wave that we were hoping for in 22 might actually happen in 24, just out of pure desperation of $10 a dozen eggs, So, I mean, he's the real MVP. He's going to drive out. And he kept people home from voting for Darren Soto. So even though Darren Soto is a super popular guy and a strong competitive candidate, I mean, nobody wants somebody who's going to vote with Joe Biden right now. Nobody even wants to have that stain anywhere near them. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is you got the headwinds. Now, if we have the right candidate, it doesn't have to be the greatest candidate in the world. But if you have somebody who takes advantage of all the advantages that are there for you, primarily you should be a Hispanic Republican, then you have smooth sailing. As Peter Vivaldi demonstrates, if you pick somebody who's going to be, that can't transfer any votes, because you have to remember, regardless, we're still 3-1. It's only 25% of voters in Osceola County are Republican. So that's not enough to do it, right? You need all of those Republicans. You need all the 38% of independents and the 36% of Democrats. You need all those voters. So I mean, it's just key. You need to get some cross-party support to win this race.
Yeah, you definitely need every single vote you can get. One of the things for me, as a candidate myself, and I don't know if you know this, but like I was running for the seat, but at the same time, as I was running, I was trying to recruit someone who I thought would have a better shot of winning the seat. And I actually went to Peter Vivaldi before he signed up to run for Senate, and I said, Peter, you're a radio show host, right? And Darren Soto is actively trying to censor Hispanic news stations, right? He's applauding it. He's asking for it. He's tried to censor conservatives at Capitol Hill on his meetings with Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. So I thought, like, you could make a very good case to the Republican Party and to people who will donate to your cause, and you would be a really good candidate. I will drop out of this race and I will endorse you. I said I was surprised when he signed up at the very last minute for the Senate District 25, which it almost completely overlaps Florida District 9, and we saw the damage that he did in that election with just $19,000. He did better than Scotty Moore, who won the Florida 9 nominee and spent out of his campaign $601,000. That's just like burning cash, throwing it in the fire. Yeah. You could have just given
with the right candidate, $600,000 might get you the victory.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what that shows you. I mean, it's he underperformed, very, very strongly underperformed.
And you gotta keep in mind, so like this doesn't show the whole picture. So just so you know, Darren Soto, how much did he spend? Well, he spent 2.2 times as much as Scotty Moore. But when you look at Victor Torres spent almost 7 times as much as Peter Vivaldi, right? And Peter Vivaldi still almost beat him. Yes,
so I know you and I, Jose, talked about this last year during the election, but one thing I also want to note is Scotty Moore's team, when they were spending digital ads, I remember talking to you, Jose, about this. I was getting his digital ads on Facebook. I'm nowhere near his district. I'm about 2.5 hours away from his district. And I was getting get out the vote ads, which made absolutely no sense to me because, like I said, nowhere near him. So burning that $600 and something thousand, if he might have spent it a little bit better as well. He might have won a little bit more votes, but whoever was placing those ads did a really poor job, because I was getting those ads and I can't even vote for the guy. So
You know what's
hopefully
funny?
whoever.
Sorry, Joseph. You know
What's
what's
that?
funny is that I never got one of his digital ads. Not only am I in the heart of the district, but I voted Republican for, since I moved here to Osceola County. I've had in every primary and every election, and I didn't see a single one of his ads, not one single post of his. So, you got to wonder if it was,
Yeah.
maybe Mark Zuckerberg was helping him out there. But yeah, I agree
Well,
with you.
well, and
Yeah,
you
it
know,
was strange. I remember talking with Jose about that.
yeah, I do remember that very, very clearly because, yeah, you're right. You're like 3 hours away from here, really. And I did have other people mention
Yeah.
to me who were part of North Orlando who were getting also postcards in the mail. But you know what? I think in the long run, this is not even about Scotty Moore. It's the fact that the NRCC will put out these statements, right? That say, hey, we're going to target him. And what is the effect of that, right? It attracts people who cannot win the race, and it helps Darren Soto secure his seat, really. And it's a shame. I wish they wouldn't do that unless they were serious, and when they would start from day one, bring someone down here, and let's start recruiting the right candidate, and then put out the statement. But just putting statements like that is just actually hurting the community more than anything.
Well, and it could be a feint, like you mentioned, right? So it
Yeah,
could be a feint on their part. They're getting him ramped up. They want them not to think that they're going to run away with the seat. They want them to put resources here so that they can't spend them somewhere else, which is more important to them or which is more winnable for them. So I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do that for them. It's not necessarily in our interests.
yeah. Like so, basically, you're saying that the NRCC may believe that we will not certainly win the seat, but they put it on the list so that the Democrats say, oh my God, they're coming for our seat. Let's pour some money into that race instead of putting those resources into other races, right? So that would be their
Yeah.
strategy. I know you mentioned Zuckerberg, but like really,
And
it doesn't even have to go that far. When you have candidates, right, and a candidate can go, listen, I could go to a consultant right now, pick up the phone, call a consultant, and say, hey, listen, I want to run for office. I'm going to pay you this much, however much you charge. I want to run to be the congressman over in Harlem. And they're going to probably tell me, absolutely, we can get you that W. We're going to help you win. And there's no way
Yeah.
on this earth that I am ever going to win a seat for it. Just doesn't make any sense, right? It's
No, a
nonsense.
consultant's
But they'll
job
do
is
it
to
because
tell you how good you look on stage.
yeah,
So they're going to tell you, "Oh my, you're the greatest. You can win any seat. You're gifted. You're the best looking guy on the planet. You need to be a congressman. I'm gonna kill myself getting you to Washington D.C." I mean, so you can't trust these consultants to tell you about. Well, here's the thing, and Joseph, back to your point too. I also never had a conversation with Scotty, right, about the race. So no, I'm not. I mean, there's no reason to necessarily talk to me about your race. But if I were running, if it were me and I was running for Congress, I would have met every single Republican who has any voice whatsoever, so that they can come get involved in my race. I mean, that's to me that would have been number one. I mean, that's grassroots. In 2012, when this seat first opened, right, when they redistricted this seat, I was running the Get Out the Vote campaign for Romney. We knocked on 93,000 doors. So for him not to come and use his resources in the county just shows that it's not only the digital ads, all of his resources weren't used to win the election. And I think that was there was a big void. So, to what Jose is saying, a consultant will tell you that you're the greatest in the world. They'll call you champ all day long, but in the end, they're just, like Don King, they're there for a paycheck.
yeah, and I want to make a quick point as well, is that the DCCC and they also put out target lists like this as well. So both sides do it. So to John's point, there is a play at that, to where they want these Republicans, they want these groups to look at these seats and really look into it and say, okay, well, maybe we actually can lose because he was, Scotty Moore lost by 3 points. If they run the right candidate, we might actually lose this race. So they're going to spend money there. Meanwhile, they have a seat, in Iowa or something that might be a little bit more competitive, where they can actually spend money and really make a difference on it. So both sides do that, and it is really interesting tactic. But Jose and I have talked about this with the consultants, and it's 100% true. There's a lot of consultants out there, and really in recent memory, the last, I would say, 6 to 8 years, that have come out, and their sole purpose is to make money. It's not to win elections and win these races and to be patriots. So it's a part of the game now, unfortunately. But you'll see them across the board. There's consulting groups popping up all over the place that really have no business being in the consultant business, but they're there to make money, and unfortunately they don't really care about the races. So
yeah, or the result.
Yep. So any advice you guys have for someone that's looking at this list, maybe their district's in it, and they're considering running for office?
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I would
I think
file. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead, Joseph.
I was just gonna say briefly, Jose and I, with the J&J Show, we've done a lot of, tips for running for office, and I think just going back and watching some of those, will give a lot of help. Even though we talked down on a lot of consultants, there are a lot of great consultants out there that can actually help you, and so finding that right consultant that has the power to help you in your race is very, very important, as well as, making sure that you actually have a shot. There's a lot of people that get in these races that they have absolutely zero chance at winning them, but because they feel that they have a need or an urge to run for these seats, they do it, and, more power to them, because they're doing what they believe is best for the country, in their district. But at the same time, you have to be smart about it. And if you see a person that aligns with your views that has a much better chance at winning these races than you, then, I think you should take a step back and throw your support behind them.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah. It's not that we're saying that consultants are not good, right? It's just what you said is 100% right. You have to find the right consultant, the guy that knows what he's talking about, the guy that knows the district, the guy that knows the contacts that you need to have, the guy that knows the votes, the number of votes that you need, and where you're going to spend your money, and somebody who's got some familiarity and some actual knowledge that can win you the race. So it's about finding the right one. It's not about waving off the consultant's business. It's just about picking the one, right? Picking the right guy. That's a great point.
Absolutely, guys. Well, thank you for providing all your input on these, this announcement from the NRCC, and hopefully, people who are listening to this, anyone actually trying to run for Florida 9 or any of these seats, will take your advice to heart. I think that's it for this show. So, thank you guys, and God bless everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
God bless. Have a great night.
I guess it was the 3J show.
What was that, John?
I guess tonight it's the 3J show.
There you go. That's right, the 3J.
Thank you guys for having me.
We're gonna have to change the name.
J cubed.
There you go. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You as well. God bless.